Shalom, dearest friends. A pleasure to be learning together, a pleasure to be growing together. There's something that has to just be put forth, and that is, what is the purpose of life? Do we feel that we are connected to the purpose of life? And that is a question that's so basic that when a human being comes into this world, that if we can't address that question, we have not really began to be in this existence called creation, which is that a human being should look at the world and should think to themselves, why am I here? What's the purpose of me being here? Why did God put me in this world? This is a question that Avram Avinu, the great Avram, Abraham, asked himself from an early age, which is, why am I in this world? What is the mission for me being in this world? This is with a purpose. This is not for no reason. And Abraham started to look around at the world. And he said, where did things come from? Who put the sun in the sky? Who put the planets in their orbits? There must be some force that's moving everything. And Avram Avinu, started going on this journey of tracing things back. Where does finite existence come from? What is the purpose for me being here? And he arrived at the conclusion that there must be an infinite creator and sustainer of heaven and earth that made this world, that made this most beautiful world, that I should be in this world, and I can connect to the creator, sustainer of heaven and earth. This beautiful world that God made for us. Then God said, I'm not going to leave you in this world like a sheep without a shepherd. Like King David said, Gam ki elech begeit salmoves, lo irara. Even if I go begeit salmoves, through the valley of the shadow of death, lo irara. I will not be afraid. Ki ata imadi. For God, you are with me. I'm secure that you're with me. And God communicated through the greats that in fact there's a purpose to this world. And I'm happy that we can take upon some questions coming soon. I want to now propose guidance that we've been given, because we don't want to be sheep that feels that I don't have a shepherd to guide me through this world. You have a shepherd. King David is teaching us that we have a shepherd that's guiding us. I want to begin with a story that speaks to me, a story that is very, very important, that once upon a time, it was in England, that there was a contest. There was a contest, and this is something that happens sometimes, and I wish shalom to everyone who's joining us here. There was a contest, and the contest related to who can recite this poetry in the most beautiful way. And the poetry that was chosen to be for the contest was the great Psalm 23, the 23rd Psalm of the book of Psalms of King David. And this Psalm, of course, was Mizmor LeDavid, Hashem Roi, a song of David, Hashem Roi, God, you are my shepherd. And each person was expected to say and present the 23rd Psalm of King David. So what happened? People were getting up and presenting the 23rd Psalm. It's a great piece of world poetry for much of the world. And somebody got up, this young boy, and he started saying the 23rd Psalm in the most wondrous of ways. And everybody was clapping and cheering, so wonderful, so beautiful. And then what happened afterwards? There was an old man in the back of the room, and this old man in the back of the room, so he said, maybe you'll mind if I don't mind, also reciting the 23rd Psalm. And they said, please come forth, Rabbi, and say the 23rd Psalm. And in his broken English, he started to recite the 23rd Psalm. And at first people were kind of laughing. And then people were not laughing, but they were silent. And by the end of him reciting the 23rd Psalm, everybody was crying. And afterwards, of course, the reward and the prize went to this young, talented figure who said the 23rd Psalm in great excitement. But as the young man who presented the 23rd Psalm was running out of the room, he said, Rabbi, really the prize belongs to you? And he says, I'm not, interested in prizes. I don't need, prizes. And he said, but I just have to ask you, why when I recited the 23rd Psalm, everybody was clapping? And why when you recited the 23rd Psalm, everybody was crying? So he said to the young boy, he said, it's very simple. When you recite the 23rd Psalm of King David, you're reciting it in a way that you're speaking about the shepherd. You're speaking about the shepherd. But then the old man said, but I know the shepherd. I know the shepherd. I've spent time with the shepherd. And of course, the shepherd is God. So when King David is teaching us that there's a relationship that you could have to the shepherd and that you're not lost, I want to present not words of my own, but words of King David, words of somebody who knew the shepherd, words of somebody who is connected to the shepherd, words of somebody who came to humanity, King David, to give us a relationship, to tap us into a relationship, and that relationship is available for you and I. And I want to present someone who knew the words of the shepherd as well. His name was the Ramchal, Moshe Chaim Lutzato, the great Ramchal. And I would like you to see this book, because this book is a famous book, and that if a person wants to find the purpose, I would highly suggest you can get this book. You can get this book. This is a very profound book. It's called The Path of the Just. And this essentially, in Hebrew, is called Mesilas Yesharim. That Mesilas Yesharim is a book of guiding us towards the purpose, guiding us that somebody who knows the shepherd is telling you about the shepherd. And I would like to share with you that the whole purpose of what the Jewish people are here to do is we want to share the purpose with humanity. We would like that humanity comes to the purpose. And in the introduction of the great book, Mesilas Yesharim, he says something beautiful. He says, the world is a very confusing place. There's a lot of noise in the world. The world has a lot to say. And there's a lot of distraction. And it's not so simple to find what the purpose is. We can get very much thrown off track of what the purpose is. And the Mesilas Yesharim is telling you, as he begins his book, he says something beautiful. He says, this whole world is like a hedge maze. Anybody here know what a hedge maze is? If you do, you can write. It's always wonderful when people write where they're writing from around the world. It's so wonderful to have you. It's so wonderful to share together. That this world is like a hedge maze. And a hedge maze is a place which is not so easy to get to the middle. The middle of the hedge maze, you might have some portico there, some pool there, some nice refreshments there. But while you're in the hedge maze, everything looks the same. Now, I want to get to the middle of the hedge maze. That's the destination that I'm looking for. But how do I get there? Because I don't know how to get there. If I go right, maybe it looks like I'm getting close, but really right will take me all the way around in some long circumvented route, and I'll never actually get to the middle. So I'm trying to get to the hedge maze. I want to get into the center. I want to get to the middle of the hedge maze. How do I do that, my friends? So the Ramchal says, imagine you had somebody standing in the middle of the maze. He's standing on top of the structure that's there. He's on the mid. He made it there. He might even be holding a pina colada, whatever you think is going on there. He made it to the middle of the maze. So you have one of two options. He's standing in the middle of the maze and he says, my dear friends, I would like to help you get to the middle of the maze. If you choose to join me, then you can listen to me and you can come to the maze, you can come to the destination. If you don't listen, then you're going to have to figure this out yourself. But isn't it logical that somebody who's literally standing at the destination that you're trying to get to, that you would lean your ear, you would look up to that person and say, you know what? It makes sense. You're already standing there. It looks like you probably know how to get here because you actually made it there. So the Ramchal is saying, I made it to the middle of the maze. I listened to the words of King David. I listened to the words of King David who taught me that kirvas Elokim li tov, that the goodness and the purpose of this world is an intimate connection with God. And that intimate connection is available to all of us. Now, either I could try to figure this all out myself, and I could see whatever they're trying to sell me at all the different, there's many vendors around the world trying to sell me different things. Or I go to the one who's standing at the destination that I'm looking for, and I go to that place and I listen to his words. King David got to where we're trying to get to. And it's amazing that all of humanity has this connection to King David. The great Anim Zmiris Yisrael, King David, that he is in the destination that we're trying to get to. So I would like to read you from the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim. I see that Hugh is saying that this is one of his favorite book recommendations. Wonderful that you're with us. So look what the great Ramchal says. So the first thing that a person has to address as being a human being, here I am, I'm alive. So the first thing a human being has to address is the following. Ulamat sarach, sheyisbar v'yisamet. A person has to make clear v'yisames and integrate ma chayvasai ba'olamai. What am I here to do in the world? Now it's fascinating. The first thing he says is not what is coming to me. What are my rights? The first thing he says are what is my obligations? What are my obligations in this world? How many of us, I'm happy for everybody to write, how many of us feel that when they wake up in the morning, the first thing they think about is, what are my rights? What's coming to me? What's coming to me? Whereas the way that we see things is that we wake up in the morning and the first thing that we think about is, what are my responsibilities? What are my responsibilities as being a creation of God? What am I here to now do in the world? What are my responsibilities in the world? What can I do in the world? What am I here to do in the world? So that's pretty important. I have to find out what is my responsibility. I have to clarify this. It looks like it's not so simple. Sheyisbar, I need to figure this out. V'yis ametz, I need to integrate it. I need to get it into me. What is my obligation? And once I figure out what's my obligation in this world, my friends, and it's clear to me, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm here to do in the world. Ulamat sarach sheyosem ma'botoi u'magamosoi b'chol asher hu omal kol yemei chaya. And therefore, what I have to be doing all the days of my life. Once I figure out why I'm here, the next thing I have to address is, am I actually living up to that? So number one, what's the first thing that I look at? Why am I here? So Ruby, I would ask you, why are you alive in this world? Why are you here? What's the purpose of life? What's the responsibility that you have? Why are you here in this world? And it's amazing that human beings can go through an entire lifetime and not think about this. Why am I here? What's my responsibility in the world? And once I think about that, I need to do every single thing possible to ensure that I am living with that reality all the days of my life, every single moment of my life, that I'm living with that. Now, that's an amazing thing. I've come here to figure out, just like Abraham, just like Avram Avinu, what is the purpose of life? My dear friends, what is the purpose of life? So now, somebody who's connected to the purpose, who's connected to the person who knows the purpose, King David, who's connected to God revealing the purpose at Mount Sinai, teaches us the following. This that has been given over to us. Who? Do you know why we're here? To have a connection to God. To have the pleasure of the connection to God. That is why, my friends, we are here. To have a pleasure in the connection with God. It might sound simple, but to put it into practice is not as easy as we might think. To have the pleasure of a connection to God. So I wanted to open this discussion up, my friends. Tomorrow night, we're going to go more into this topic of connecting to the purpose. But I want you to think about this. I want us all to think about this. That the purpose of life, number one, I have to think about why I'm here. I have to think about my responsibilities. I was created so that I have responsibilities. And that my responsibility is clarifying why I'm here. And we are taught that the reason why I'm here is to enjoy the relationship with God. I'd like to speak more, with everyone's help, thinking about this, of how we can connect to this, how we can connect to this in a very real way. How can I have the greatest pleasure in a connection with God? It is a pleasure to learn together. Have a wonderful day, my friends. All the best.